Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Margot Black says life's a pitch, and that's pitch with a P. Let's hear more. Margot, thanks for being with us today.
Bill, I'm so excited to join you on this show. I love your show. I've been listening, and I'm a huge fan.
Well, it's mutual because I love your book, and the title, of course, Life's a Pitch. So we're going to start off with that question, though. How would you define the term pitch?
I think a pitch is something we do often. Most people think they're not doing it, but it's trying to present our point of view with an ask of something that you want to happen.
Now, someone once came to me and said, oh, you'll remember, in fact, it was at a networking event. They said, when you have a mess, think of Tess. And it wasn't too endearing from a female, but you know what? 25 years later, I still remember her. And basically, she had a company that cleaned up if it was a hurricane or an emergency or a snowstorm, whatever happened, her company came in and cleaned things up. Would that be a type of pitch? Would that qualify?
That qualifies, and that's a brilliant pitch. I don't even know Tess, but I'd like to give her an award because that is so memorable. 25 years later, you remember it. She gave you an anchor and an olive branch. An anchor, something she set herself into the deep water with, right? You have a mess, think of Tess. 25 years later, I'm going to Google her after. And then an olive branch of a way to engage and remember her. She gets an award.
She really was wonderful. Now, that was a one-on-one at a networking event, but does this fit for all types of media? Could it be radio? Could it be TV, one-on-one meetings, podcasts?
Yes, it's absolutely everything, Bill. And here's the thing for listeners to understand. Right now, we are working in a very multimedia, multi-platform, and multitasking environment where people are busy. They've got 5 windows open. You need to grab their attention and hold on tight.
And obviously, you see, Tess did that because 25 years later, I still remember that pitch. And I'm really not in a business that would be working with her. So even more impressive that would stay with me. It's not something that I would regularly call on for a business. And hopefully we don't have those kind of emergencies.
Right. I hope you don't. And in my book, I wrote something. I'm not even sure if I can say it on the radio, but it's one of my mantras, more pitching, less bitching. And if I need to say that over again, I will. But what happens is most people complain. They complain about a lot of things, but they don't take the necessary action to go out and get themselves more choices. And that's where pitching comes in, because I believe true power comes from having choice. And when you have more choices, you have an opportunity to go after what you want, but that only comes from pitching.
And you brought out, I think, in your book, and I've taken note here, no pitch, no choice.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you something, Bill, that is what makes people miserable. And if you have ever had either a toddler or a teenager, you will know this to be true. You tell a toddler or a teenager to do anything, you will get a revolt. But if you give them a choice, then you've got a negotiation. And what most people want, both personally and professionally, no one wants to feel backed into a corner. And you get that true power by getting yourself choices. And the only way to get your choices is to go and get yourself as many opportunities and possibilities as possible. And that comes from pitching. And that will make people have much more personal and professional power.
Now, Margot, you mentioned in your book, and I want our audience to know this, when I think of the word pitch, I think of someone who's talking to me. Maybe they catch me on an elevator, or we're just waiting online for something and we're going to be there 5 or 10 minutes. And they're obviously trying to tell me something about their business because they want to get it in. But you, if I'm correct, you work with CEOs, you work with billionaires, major companies. This is not just Mo and Joe or someone like myself who might meet someone and try to sell them a car. You're talking about the top of the pyramid.
Top of the pyramid, right down to the bottom. You have got to know what you want to say, and your words must be forward facing and eagerly directed in a way that is powerful and demonstrative for all people to lead them in the direction you need them to go.
Now, you mentioned in your book, you say your mother lied to you when she said, don't judge a book by its cover. Explain to us why. Why would she lie to you? And what do you mean by that, really?
Bill, this is the biggest lie that people hold on to. No offense to everybody's mother, including my own. People think that visuals don't matter, right? Like, oh, it doesn't matter if you just go out in a pair of flip-flops and look like crap. People will get to know me. Or on a job interview, I'm not going to really prepare. They'll get to know me. My resume will speak louder than anything else. But that is not true. And it has not been true ever, because we all judge a book by its cover. In fact, from ancient times and caveman people times, we have to constantly be visually judging for survival. And as a past lawyer, most people just believe what they see.
No, so true. And it just brought back to me, and sadly, this was about a year ago, a friend of mine asked me to take him to the doctor, and I knew he was very sick at the time, and he subsequently passed away. But when I took him, he was very well dressed up, and he wasn't a person of means. So I was really surprised. He was not the type of person who usually got this dressed up. I said, boy, you must really like this doctor. And he just looked at me and he said, they treat you the way you dress.
There you go.
And here he was. I mean, for him, this was a struggle because he was quite ill. And but again, another pitch that stayed with me, that I thought if he can do it in that condition, I should never complain. I could put that tie on or the sport coat or the clean shirt.
Absolutely. And it is such a small step for such a big reward. And I talk about that in my book. The first thing people are going to judge are the visuals. So the way that most people's mothers lied to them is to just give them a sense that, you can slide. People will dig in and figure it out. But that's not true. And frankly, it's never been true.
Now, Margot, let me ask you a personal question. As I'm going through your book, I'm saying to myself, I wonder if Margot can enjoy Shark Tank, or does she become a critic when that's on? Now, you see those people, do you mark it off? Oh, they talk too loud. They talk too quickly. They didn't wear the right dress, pants, shirt. Is that a good example of pitching?
That's a fantastic example. And that's hilarious that you mentioned it, Bill. I sometimes want to do, like, my kid watches people watch video games sometimes. I would love to be the little critic there. Sometimes you see people fantastic, and sometimes you see people that you're like, really, you're going into a Shark Tank dressed like that? That's not the right message.
I've seen some
and here's the thing. It's not the right message when you're asking for money. Money has its own necessity of what it wants from you, and nobody wants to give money to somebody who doesn't look like they're ready for it.
And they're talking significant money, because the people come, right, so even more so than, it's not a $5 donation or a 20-cent donation. It's
you better look like you're ready for the $3 million and not looking like you're ready for, somebody's wedding.
Another thing you mentioned is that basically this is a never-ending game, pitching. And I guess we have to be on, I'm going to say, if you're in business, and especially if you're dealing with billionaires and CEOs, 24 hours a day, because you don't know when or who is either listening or overhearing or takes that pitch and runs with it.
You have no idea. And I don't know who said it, but you'll get the old adage that, opportunities come to those who are prepared. And so to think in this world that at some point during the day you're not going to pitch is actually delusional. Life's a pitch. You're going to do it. So I wrote the book to equip people to understand what the elements of a good pitch are, so you can win more of what you want.
When you see someone giving a pitch, do you instantly start analyzing that and say to yourself, do you become the critic, or do you just try to appreciate it for what it is? Oh, he would get an 80 out of 100 or A plus or B minus.
That's really a sweet way to think about it. It depends on who's coming at me for what reason. But in general, I try to just enjoy the ride and see where it takes me.
We're enjoying this ride, but before we go further with you, I'd like to let our audience know that if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Margot Black. She's the author of Life's a Pitch. That's pitch with a P. And Margot, we're going to ask you, is there a website where we can get more information and find out more about you?
Sure. You can check out my book. My personal website is margotblack.com. That's Margot with a T. And you can also check out my work at blackinkpr.com. And that's ink, I-N-K, like the pen.
And we'll ask you that again a few more times. So to our listeners, if you're new to the show, get that pencil and paper out. You'll get this information because 2 or 3 days from now, you're going to say, I just wish I could remember that guest. I heard her on the radio the other day. Well, now's your chance. Get this down and change your life very quickly. Margot, I'm sure going through, of course, with a business like yours, and you've written a book on it, you probably have some favorites that you look back on and say, oh, this was such a good pitch for this reason, but this was another pitch in a different field, whether it's political, religious, trying to sell soup, or whatever it might be. Can you tell us some of your favorites?
I will just say this, that every pitch I do, I infuse with passion, color, and vibrancy. And that's what I'm trying to get everyone through this book to understand and to do. And I wrote this book so people can feel confident with their pitches and understanding what lane they want to put their pitch into so they know what they're addressing, so they know how to succeed. In general, what I'm helping all of my clients do, whatever the topic may be, is to gather their assets, organize their words, and then be able to send the message out into the world so other people can accept it and receive it the way you want it to be received without a lot of clutter and misinterpretation. And to do that, you need to be clear as can be.
And when you just said into what lane they want to go, and I'm just thinking, and you can tell me if this is wrong, are you saying, are they trying to sell on price, or we're the cheapest, or we're the most expensive, or on location, we're in every town in so-and-so state? What do you mean by in what lane?
Okay, well, that's very important to know before you start, and in my book, I discuss like the lanes that people need to address, the visuals, the values. So, the price and what you're going to charge, that's going to be in values. The verbal, what you're going to say to your audience, and then the visibility. What most people do is they turn up the visibility first, and then they don't get what they want, and they get mad. They're like, it didn't work. I hate marketing. I hate PR. I hate social media. But you can't say all of that. That's just like hating talking to people. So you need to know, what lane are you addressing? Is price? Price is a value. What value does your audience get from you? You've got to be clear on the value, because that's one of the things people are going to judge you on. Then the verbal, what are you saying to your audience? Are you speaking to them in a way they like to be spoken to? And then the visibility, you have to be clear before you turn it up. Otherwise, it will be miscommunicated. And most importantly, a confused mind never buys.
I copied that statement down because you led me right into what I was going to say, the next question. And you took me back about 30 years. I was buying a camcorder, and when they came out, they were, I think at that time, around anywhere from $550 to a couple of $1,000s. And I went into a nice fancy camera store, and the gentleman was very good. He showed me several, but he said, okay, here we go. This one's $800, this is $1,000, this is $1,200. And I was confused. And I didn't buy just exactly what you said. But I did want a camcorder, and I was ready to buy. So I came back, I'm going to say the next weekend, and the salesman I got at that time said, oh, I know just what you want. He put one out. I think he went with the lower model and then the extremely high, but he was pointing me toward the lower one. And I think he assessed that I didn't want to go, this was not big time. This was just to, it's a camcorder. It was fun. We're going to take Little League games, etc. And that's what I used it for. And I made the purchase. But when I was confused, exactly what you said, I walked out because I just couldn't make a decision. There was too much information.
It's all the time. And actually, that is the salesperson's fault. They gave you too much information instead of understanding what value did you want from this product.
And I like the way you said, because you hit it right on the head. What value? I wanted an inexpensive value, and I don't mean that as a joke. This was not for theatrics. This was not for the theater or anything like that. This was for Little League games, memories that I would have of my children playing ball, something funny around the house, a barbecue. They assessed it. They knew I was the average camera person, not the specialist, and they picked the right one out for me.
Right. But in this case, and I just want to point this out because I wrote this book to help other people understand what the man did, the first salesman did, was gave you too much information. And it wasn't information that you were looking for. So he sunk himself. His lack of clarity sank him.
No, exactly. And like I said, that came back so quickly. And again, it had to be about 30 years ago. So for something to come back that way, you definitely hit that right on the button. When we're trying to think of a pitch, is this something we can do individually? Do we go out to someone like you, or is there a specialist in our town we should look for? Or do they just kind of, pop in, like sometime we'll say, wait, that's a great idea, I'll use that? Or all
Well, that's
three?
a great question. If you're a business or an entrepreneur and you want help, you can hit me up at blackingpr.com. Come on over. I'm happy to help you. On a personal level, I wrote the book to really help people so they can understand what they need to do for themselves to clarify. And it's never been more important than now, Bill, to clarify, because we are so multimedia and multi-platform. That it is, you enter the tidal wave gate of like a deluge of information for people. So don't be part of the noise, be part of the clarity.
You're giving me so many good sayings that these notes are a mess, but that's because you're giving us too much good stuff to write down. Another tip that you have, and throughout your book, you list, I call your book basically a meat and potatoes book. Because
I love it. I love that because that's what I wanted to write. Thank you.
Thank you, because as I'm going through it, I'm taking notes, I'm underlying sections, and I'm saying, this is something I want to ask you about. This will be good for our audience. And I think for anybody thinking of this, and you bring out something that's just so important. Your first tip that's listed there says, what's in it for them?
Yes. Yes. So many people start everything with me, I. And I get a lot of emails directed to me, at Blacking PR about what people want. And they start, I. And I'm like, well, why don't you tell me what you can do for me? It's a horrible way to start. And I know that is insecurity. A lot of it is also people's youth. And I tried to make it a very simple, easy to read meat and potatoes book because I wanted people to grasp it at the most basic level. Here's how to pitch and win. It is not in this super narcissistic selfie stick at all times. Let me take a selfie. Look how pretty I am. Society. It has got to be about service to the other.
Margot, I want to share a pitch that I got a few years ago. I had a lady who wanted to be on the show, and we've been on, we talked about it earlier, for 36 years now. And she basically made condiments and put them in the supermarket. Now, there's nothing sexy about that. There's nothing that draws you to it. It wasn't advertised by Paris Hilton or Kim Kardashian or someone who would draw you into it. So I politely said, well, I'll think of it, but I don't think it's really for us. A couple of weeks after that, I received an email and said, hello, Bill. Remember we met? I'm the lady who turned a head of cabbage into $1 million. Exactly what you're doing now. Your mouth is open to our audience. Your arms went up in the air. And as soon as I saw that, I read one line. That was it. Wrote her back, said, let's schedule this. We have a show. Because that was such a good draw. And again, it was a totally, as a condiment, it was like ketchup or whatever that other stuff is you put on hot dogs and hamburgers. But not, it makes them taste good, but there's nothing appealing that draws an audience into that. But as soon as she said, I turned the head of cabbage into $1 million, I wanted her on. Go. We were going to have a lot of fun, and we were going to perhaps get $1 million from someplace else.
And I want to say this. Your show is called The Secret of Success. Every first line has to grab your audience by the brain and pull the rug out from it so that they remember.
Well, I want them to remember this because once again, we're going to take a brief break and let them know that if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan. Our guest today is Margot Black. She is the author of Life's a Pitch, and that's pitch with a P. And Margot, would you give us the website once again?
You're so kind. It's margotblack.com, or you can also check out my work at blackinkpr.com.
Now, we're going to get into your personal life. Dum-da-dum, the music plays in the background.
Dum-da-dum.
But you put it in your book, so I guess it's okay to talk about. You actually used this theory of pitching with something you did in life, and I think you had 123 adventures doing it over 2 years. And do you know what I'm talking about? Or
I do.
You do? Okay.
Do.
Can we talk about that? Is that all right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would only want everyone to know that I actually live and breathe a book that I wrote.
Okay.
And I wrote it from both a personal and professional note that one of the things I see people fear the most, whether they're CEOs or their neighbors, everybody fears rejection. Everybody. But rejection is always going to be a stepping stone to help you get what you want. And if, as a publicist and the author of this book, I could help everybody understand, it is really one of the most important things you can do to get out of a little bit of your fear of rejection and move towards what you want. What you are referring to, Bill, is that many years ago, I decided, okay, I do want to be serious. And I think I would like to be married and stop dating so casually. So I was looking for something very special. And I sat down and I thought, what do I want and how am I going to do it? And I put up a dating profile online and I went on in 2 years, 123 dates. The best part of that story is next year I'll be celebrating my 20th anniversary with my husband. So it has a happy ending and it worked out well.
And to our audience, and I just have to say this, they might be thinking, oh my gosh, 123. You're a very beautiful lady. We're talking here. But you really defined it based on what you had in your book. If I remember reading that correctly, you used most of the rules that you list in your book for finding a date. And obviously it worked and worked very well.
Every rule and everything. And I don't want this to sound like I wrote a book like the book called The Rules as to how to date. Like I just decided I was going to open up the floodgates of humanity, which is what my book is about. Let me help you get a floodgate of opportunities for yourself. Let me help you get a whole boatload of possibilities. Most people keep their numbers so small. That's why they're not getting the success that they want. And I love back to the original principle of your show, The Secrets of Success. You need to up your numbers for whatever you want to get more success. So I had to go up my dating numbers to find the right person. And I just opened up the faucet. I did everything I wrote in the book. And then it opened up the faucet and I had much more to choose from. And here's the other thing. In my book, I talk about how you cannot learn to drive a parked car. And you can't learn to sail a docked boat. You must be in action. One of the big secrets to success is to be in action. Put it in drive. So as I went on this dating journey, I learned so much. And before that, it wasn't that I wasn't dating. It was that I was like a serial monogamist. Every date that I liked turned into 2 years and I had to do it differently. So I was on a different path. And that's why I wound up going on 123 dates in 2 years. And then when I met my husband, I did not have a doubt that that was the right guy.
And of course, you tested the waters and you were out there. And because to me, I hear from a lot of people today how hard that is getting out there. It's a different dating world. It's not what it was obviously 50, 60 years ago, both good ways and bad ways. But I also want to tell you, I already wrote down, because I think that's the title of your next book, You Cannot Learn to Drive a Parked Car. I think
you can't.
I would definitely pick up seriously, no matter whether it's your name on the bottom. If I saw that title, because I have to read to see, wait, what is she getting at? And that's what you want me to do. Get interested. I'm going to start looking at the pages. And if it's anything like this book, I'm definitely going to buy it. You mentioned in the book, we have to pitch forward. What does pitch forward mean?
That's a great question, Bill. Here's what it means. Most people, they start talking about themselves. They tell you the past 20 years of their life, and they take way too long telling it to you. I went to school here. I did this, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. I'm Margot Black. I wrote a book. It is to help people get what they want moving forward. I'm going to teach you how to go get your best life in record time. That's what pitch forward means. I want you to anchor where you are. Tell me maybe one line about your past, but then pitch forward and tell me a vision and the values of where you're moving to. Move forward.
Is there a pitch, like, can we look back on pitches, great pitches of history, and almost like we take a ball player and each one has, I eat good food, I work out every day, I get up early. Is there some advice from past pitches that you could say, hey, this is one of your favorite, let's take this and work off of that?
I don't know what example I could give you so quickly to give you that. But if you read any great speech that has gone down in history, they are always crafting a vision of the future for you and asking you to follow that vision. You have never heard a great leader sit there and spend more than half of their speech talking about what they majored in college, what they were doing 10 years ago that led them here. They are always crafting a vision for the future with energy and asking you to follow along.
And I want to again emphasize to our audience, this is a person who works with billionaires, millionaires, and CEOs, and the type of people most of us want to be, or want our sons or daughters to be, or aspire to get up the business, what is called the corporate ladder. So if they're doing this and they're hiring Margot to help with the pitch, maybe the rest of us should take a look at it too. Margot, before we wrap up one more time, give us that website.
Oh, it's margotblack.com, and my name is Margot with a T. Black.com is my personal website. And for work, you can check out blackinkpr.com, and that's ink, I-N-K, like a pen. If you need any help, hit me up. Happy to talk, see if we can help you with some solutions. But mostly, I hope everybody buys this book, Life's a Pitch. You can buy it on Amazon. And I wrote it to inspire and help everybody how to get their foot in the door and not put it in their mouth. I promise. Read the book. I love that you said it's the meat and potatoes book. I will help you move forward with power, some punch, and a good little bit of zing.
And I will say, all that you said is true, and every page is filled with those meat and potatoes. If someone doesn't like to read a lot, just read 2 pages. You'll get an idea. Go back tomorrow, read 2 more pages. You're going to see the pitch will work. It's worked for Margot. It works for billionaires. It'll work for you. Margot, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Bill. It's been a delight. Love your show. Thanks for listening, everybody.
I'd like to let our audience know you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.